Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to
Hunting
subscribe,
Connection
rate, and
podcast.
review the
My
podcast.
name is Zach Williams,
Together,
and I am your host.
we continue
He will
growing
connect you with
and
hunters,
delivering
fishers,
more
and outdoor
captivating
enthusiasts
episodes
from
for
around the
all
globe.
hunting enthusiasts.
This podcast will share hunting
Stay
and fishing
connected,
stories, including
stay
past
informed,
experiences,
and keep pursuing
tackle
your
the
passion
tough
for the
hunting
hunt.
stereotypes
Until
our
next
community
time,
faces.
happy hunting.
We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast.
G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Dan from Eureka Outdoors. Other people, if you've listened to the podcast before, it used to be Eureka Tactical, but we have Dan here. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, apart from stumbling on that intro.
Yeah, that was quite the performance, but you got through it.
Bit of a tongue twister, you know. It's hard when someone changes just that little bit on their brand's name, and
That's true, yeah. But good thing you practiced 11 times before doing it.
yeah, I know, but still fucked it.
You did well. You did well.
So
The Eureka Outdoors, yes.
yes, Eureka Outdoors, formerly Eureka Tactical. So for those that don't know who you are, you've been on the podcast twice before. To give yourself a little intro, who you are, what you do, and what Eureka Outdoors is.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Daniel. I've been hunting and shooting for, 15 years now or so. And I have a qualification in wildlife biology. So I'm a wildlife biologist by trade, and I work in invasive plants and animals. So I work on a sort of pretty high level in invasive plants and animals, and mostly in the prevention space during my work. So what that means is if there's something new coming into Queensland, we want to get on top of it almost straight away so it can not establish in the wild. And like I said, that's both plants and animals. And then what that also entails is investigations into wildlife trafficking, the purposeful cultivation of invasive plants, as well as I've got multiple local governments who report to me on their works that they undertake to maintain their environment that they are in charge of, mostly to do with, what they're doing to deal with invasive plants and animals, but established species. So I have multiple local governments who report to me on that, which is exciting. And I also run a business, Eureka Outdoors. That's the main one we want to talk about. And that's basically a side business a friend and I started a number of years ago to basically fund a medium for me to advocate for hunters and shooters. I have a lot of thoughts a lot of the time. And it's good to have a medium to help hunters and shooters, and it's then funded by sales of shirts, equipment, and some of my own stuff that I've designed, a book that's coming out, and a hunting poster. So there's lots going on there.
No, that's awesome. For those that don't know, you can actually get Hunting Connection shirts on Eureka Outdoors website. So we've got a collaboration shirt, which is a mix-up of the Hunting Connection logo and your guys' logo, and just one with my logo and name on the front and on the back. If you want to see what it looks like, jump on the Bullet Points podcast on their latest episode with me on it, and you'll see what it looks like on there. So
yeah, and I think that's the first time you've actually plugged your own merch
on the podcast. Yeah,
that's exciting. Finally, make yourself some money 3
years later.
Yep, that's right.
You know me, it's not about the money. If people buy it, they buy it, but I want people to support you, so don't worry about buying, don't have to buy the Hunting Connection ones. Go check out their other stuff. We've come up with some pretty cool collaborations. So there was the Hunter in Loading shirt that we came up with together,
Hunter
which
in
is
training, loading.
What was that? Hunter in Training.
Hunter in Training.
Yeah. And that's
so it was Zach and his son. A graphic designed off of them, sort of walking away into the sunset kind of thing, and underneath just Hunter in Training. It was pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Kids shirt, obviously.
yeah, obviously. But yeah, your poster's pretty cool. That's sitting behind me, still in the tube. Mint. It's going to be like one of those one of the Pokemon cards in the future, just in mint condition because they never got opened.
Of course. No, well, the posters was really fun to design. So obviously, if you've not bought one, you don't know what it is. Something I did with Mel, my good friend Mel, is a poster of the 6 deer species in Australia, and just like a representative trophy, essentially, in sort of, well, what would you call it, 2x3 kind of order down.
Yeah.
And there's its name, so Samba deer, service unicolor. The next ones are going to come out saying Rusa unicolor, but I specifically said service for a very specific reason. And then underneath there, there's like a little tag you can write in the date and the location of where you shot one of them, whether it's your first one of the species, your first one of the year, if you're going to go through and shoot all 6 in that year, whatever you want. Just write down like, hey, there's the Samba. I shot it on this date and this location. That's up on the wall next to my other trophies. And then at the bottom, write in your name and the date you started the poster and the date you finished it. I really I think it's so cool, and Mel's done a great job with the art.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It looks mad.
It looks awesome. Yeah. I still need to get a frame and put it up. I feel I just need to get the Chittle and the Rusa first before it goes up. But
so you can write it all in and then put it in the frame. Yeah, well, yeah. It looks good whether you've written on it or not. Like, it's just like these mad as deer heads just hanging on your wall. Looks sick.
It's definitely a good way. Like, some people aren't into taxidermy, some people aren't into Euro heads, or you might be into both, but it's something cool to chuck on the wall as well, just as another keepsake reminder of hunts gone by. So
yeah, it's like you said, it's like, it's good. It's home decor. Well, I think that's how you say that. It's like it's art. It's because Mel's a great artist. But it's not just that. Like, it's a way to keep track. And like I said, like, buy one each year and try and get them all every year, or put in your first one. Like, all right, I'm starting it in 2025 with the red raw. Over the next 2 years, I'm going to get all 6 and write the first one in of each one, and it just looks mad. And then you get your friend's one, and like, it just looks sick on the wall.
And the more you guys buy, the more inspired Dan would be to do other ones. You got the Australasian Slam and the Australian Slam, the New Zealand Slam. You guys need to buy this stuff so he can get on that, because I've been telling him he needs to do an Australian Slam from rabbits to deer, and then a New Zealand one as well.
Oh, it definitely looked good. Anytime I can get Mel to draw something, it's so good. Like, it's great to have on the wall and all that. So yeah, eventually the plan would be to do the same, but with I guess the other huntable species in Australia, like not deer, but fox, rabbit, pig, etc. Just up there as like a sort of a mix sort of thing. Yeah, it looked really cool. And then the ducks eventually, but who knows what's happening with the ducks,
Yeah, don't touch on that too soon. But yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, this is Mel.Hunts on Instagram. She's been on the podcast before. She's an amazing photographer, an amazing artist, and an amazing hunter. So who better to have this stuff be brought out than, one amazing hunter and one average mediocre hunter. But
sure, I'll take it. I have been very busy lately, so there's not a lot of hunting going on.
So,
but yes,
for people that don't know, Dan and I chat. What would you say? Multiple times a week, if not on a daily basis.
A lot.
And a lot of the talks, like I bounce podcast guests off of him. I bounce podcast ideas. I bounce posts. I bounce. Pretty much every thought that I have, I bounce off of Dan, because it's kind of a yin and yang. We think very, very different on a lot of stuff, so we do kind of balance each other out when it comes to these. Well, he balances me out, so I'm not sure if I really get through to him with anything.
This is the nicest Zach's ever been to me.
But it's true, man. I bounce a lot of shit off of you, and you bounce shit off of me too. So, but
True.
it's, it's how we do it. It's how I, keep on track. It's how I, because a lot of the stuff, especially with a lot of the wildlife, like the bow hunting bans and certain things, I get very, very frustrated with. And, I used to act angrily first, but I've tend to become bouncing ideas off of you. I think about things a little bit more level-headed nowadays, something I haven't really touched on the podcast with. The other week, I had a Labor state MP come door knocking, and I've told you about this. I briefly spoke about it on podcasts, but
talk about it now. Expand on
that's what I'm getting to. So he came door knocking. I've gone outside to go put rubbish in the bin. He's walked up. He goes to introduce himself, and I'm like, "Yep, I already know who you are." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Oh, is there any issues that are worrying you in South Australia?" And I'm like, "Mate, where do you want me to start?" And he looks at me, and I'm like, first of all, the bow hunting ban that Susan Close introduced end of last year. And he's gone, hang on, wait, bow hunting ban? What do you mean bow hunting ban? I'm like, well, the state level government, Susan Close, she introduced a bow hunting ban in South Australia that kicked in 1st of December last year. And he just was shocked. He's just like, how did I not know about this? I've been to multiple archery clubs in the past year and a half, 2 years, and no one's mentioned a single thing to me. I did write him a letter earlier on, and his office did reply. Whether they passed it on to him or not, or he's just that busy, he's forgotten he actually replied to it. But he said, look, please email my office. I want to have a meeting with you, and I want you to come down and have a chat to me about all of this. And, there's not much I can do on being a federal level MP, but I still want to have a chat to you and see what's going on, and see what I can run past the state level people, and see what I can do for you. So I emailed him that night, set up a meeting, went down to his office. Supposed to be a 15-minute meeting. I was in there for just under an hour chatting to him about it. Okay. So we touched on multiple things, from the constant attacks on duck hunting, the bow hunting ban, locking out beaches in the York Peninsula down here, and he was just blown away. He grew up in country Victoria. He was in I can't remember if it was the Army or the Navy, one of the two. But, he's got vast experience shooting. He's done a bit of hunting, and he was just absolutely blown away. He was like, how can this happen? How can someone push these agendas, without taking the proper parliamentary process? And he really didn't know much about a proclamation either. So he's done 2 pages of notes in his book, and he's gone through it, and hopefully he gets back to me with. I know, like I said, I know he can't do much, but it was good being heard on the subject, and that he was curious and wanted to look into the issues that we are facing here. So that was good to see.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I think it really goes to show, okay, so you didn't reach out to him to set this up, but he was happy to talk about it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You talked to him. Yeah, he was door knocking, but this could have been set up if you messaged him or email rather, sent a letter. Hey, I want to talk about this. Regardless, you were able to set up a meeting. You went there, you talked to him about it, and he goes, look, I didn't know about this. That's actually wrong. Even though that's the same party.
Yeah.
I want to do something to contribute to fixing this, quote unquote, fixing, more like changing, or rather influencing a different outcome, and probably is going to try. And I think it goes to show, it doesn't matter who your representative is, whether they're Liberal, Labor, Katter. You don't have Katter down there, but
no,
I do. Whoever, you have a reasonable chat to him, you might get some good results. and don't just go in and swing in and attacking.
And speaking on that, that's one thing he thanked me. He's like, thank you for coming down here and not, absolutely blowing up at me. You're like, he goes, the amount of people that have issues with what state Labor government are doing, and they come in here and they're swearing and yelling and carrying on. He goes, you were cool, calm, we had a laugh, we had a good chat, and I thank you for being so cool-headed. So that was good. Like, the whole process, he was pretty transparent, saying that he's not going to, he doesn't think he'll be able to do much, but he'll find information out and pass that on to me and see what can be done and see what we can do, which is nice, if more politicians were a bit more open about that and not just send the generic response that they're told their heads are tell them to send down. So
no, and that's a really good point. So just to sort of build on that, is I had the same experience a number of years ago. Well, I've done this a lot, talked to politicians a lot for hunters and shooters, which is lovely. But even before being part of Firearm Owners United, I had an issue that I wanted to try and get fixed. And that issue was in Queensland. I was working as a firearm instructor, and in Queensland, the firearm instructor, like the safety course, is a nationally recognized course. So you need to be part of a registered training organization, RTO. So, like where you do your certificates and whatnot. You need a Cert 4 in training assessment. You need to do your firearms license. The trainers will endorse you, and you get specifically an instructor license. Like it's separate to your normal A, B, whatever. And so I had category A, B, C, D, H, and M license. So I can own whatever I want, which is nice. It was very nice having a Cat D license and a Cat C that wasn't restricted like the collectors are. What it was restricted in is that you couldn't get, or still can't get, an import permit for category D or C firearms. So with this C and D license, you can only buy C and D firearms that are already on the market, so secondhand. And firearm instructors do not get paid a lot. So you can buy a clapped out SKS or similar for $1,000 to $1,200, or you can buy a locally manufactured AR-15 for $6,000, or a secondhand AR-15, which has done 100,000 rounds through a primary producer, and it costs even more than brand new. Because what happens is primary producers and pest controllers do get these import permits, right, for their C and D. So they can get it released from customs bond into their persons and go through a normal permit, PTA. They use it, now they sell it, and they sell it at a higher price than normal because collectors and instructors can't get the permits. So to buy a course relevant gun was very expensive, is the point there.
Yeah.
Because if you're a primary producer and you're going to buy an AR-15 or a pest controller to shoot, the thousands of pigs on your property, you want to be trained on a relevant firearm. You're going to buy an AR-15, you're not going to buy an SKS. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
to be able to get a course relevant firearm was very expensive, and you would never make that money back. Like, it's sort of like, as an instructor, it's still a business. You need to make a profit, but you'll be like $6,000 for like a wedge tail. Like, bro, like you're never making that back. So I wrote to my local member. I was like, hey, this is the law. This is some issues. It's relevant to very few people. Very, very few. It's only relevant to Queenslanders because no other state have this license. But if you get this law change, it's not going to impact public safety, so you don't need to worry about optics. It's not going to increase the number of firearms in Australia, except by just a few. So, look, is this something you can do? And he wrote back to me, and he said, look, yeah, I've passed this on to Department of Home Affairs and the Governor General, I can't remember. And then that was all like typed out and stuff. And then on the letter he wrote back, said, hey, I actually have my A and B license. You should give me a call. Like, hand wrote that. And so then I did, and we had a chat. And the very next day, he went down to the gun shop and had a chat to the gun shop that I used to work at. And he was like, oh, this is like a real thing. Like, and worked on it. And then 2 weeks later, COVID happened. So that was not the prerogative of the federal government.
Definitely not.
But like he was keen on it. And, you know, every couple of years we've been in contact, being like, look, I want to put this forward still, but like COVID and then the shooting, I mean, Queensland, like it was just not the right timing and stuff. But he's onto it about wanting this to happen. And it was all just because I was like, fuck these laws and let's try and make some change.
Yeah, that's it. There's like, you know, one of my mates in our hunting group chat today, he was going off about, you know, the anti-duck hunting movement, and then they're doing a protest on SA Parliament steps here soon.
I saw that. Yep.
So yeah, I shared it today, but he's like, you know, cracking it. You know, he's just like, we should all go down there in camo and protest against the protesters. I'm like, look, man, there's only one way to go about this, and that's to be smart, to not go in guns a-blazing and just cause more issues. We need to get people into politics. We need to get pro hunting people into politics, whether that's through Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party, through One Nation, through, you know, the Libertarian Party, whatever it is. We need people to be smart, get up there, and we need to be proactive, because that's one thing that the Greens and the anti-hunters are. They get people in these positions, and then they're loud, and then they can get these things through and heard and seen. So if we can get people, you know, young hunters that, you know, are smart and, you know, have the passion, we can get behind all of this stuff.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's a very hard task, because most people don't want to run for office.
I definitely don't.
It seriously would interrupt your life and could affect your employment. It's very valid to not want to be in that position, which is why pretty much only certain type of people get in. Who have lots of money already, but that's a whole different conversation. But look, what you've just talked about, though, just before that, and contacting your representative is really good. And like we've said, this is effective. They want to get re-elected. They just need to know about the hunters and shooters in their electorate, and that there's a boatload of them. And they go, like, if I want to get re-elected and make $300,000 a year again, I should probably represent this demographic.
That's it. And, you know, events that you have, invite them to events like the ethical duck hunter dinner I went to. You need to invite politicians to stuff like that. You know, Shasta have their annual game dinner. They quite often get politicians to that. So that's awesome to see. But enough of the politics stuff for now. What have you been up to lately? What, you know, any recent hunts or interesting experiences out in field with work?
Oh, mate, I've been up. So we last had this conversation early 2023.
Yeah, something like that.
A couple months after I graduated from university as a very mature age student, so like, and so I got this job, but out bush. I was living in northwest Queensland for the past basically 2 years. That was a super interesting experience. Couple of weather events up there, and working with crocodiles, invasive species around the crocodiles. Sometimes I'd work with certain boat crews. We'd go up and down the stream. Our secondary task would be to measure every crocodile above 2.5 meters. Well, we have to report them, which means then we have to measure them, right? So we have to get the report. So drive the boat right up to a croc that's like hanging out, you know, chilling, vibing in the sun, and be like, man, are you over 2.5 meters or what? Just get the old tape measure out. And sometimes it'd get a bit, you know, but didn't want us there. So we'd back off, or it would just most of the time just jump off the log and into the water. That was pretty fun. That's pretty exciting. Working around taipans and eastern browns. I was living on a research centre, invasive plants and animals research centre. So living at work, awesome. and just working out bush. So I don't know.
You had a good time trying to trap some rabbits around.
Yeah, there was a lot of
yard.
rabbits at the research center, and like we are an invasive plants and animals research. We should be getting rid of these. And they're like, yes, you should be. I was like, all right. So I bought some traps, and I was trapping just rabbits like every couple of weeks, and trying to get rid of them. I stopped a few months before moving back down, just weather, and I was back and forth a lot, and then you could tell they were back. But yeah, just trapping rabbits sort of every couple of weeks and cooking them up, and
you had a few rooster pass through and a few chittle as well.
Yeah, in our front yard, there were a rooster, maybe 30 meters from like my balcony. In the back paddock, there was chittle, massive chittle, biggest chittle you've ever seen. It was a really awesome one that it seemed to only grow one antler. And yeah, they were just like a whole family of them would just walk through the creek line. If I was allowed to shoot there, and there's certain reasons why we weren't allowed to shoot there, to do this like where it was, and in fact it was owned by an employer, didn't want anyone to shoot. It would just be like chittle every day. You just have a chittle. Maybe you'd alternate, rooster one day on Monday, chittle on Tuesday, because they were just walking by. Rabbit on Wednesday. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So I got some like mad photos of them, but yeah, unfortunately we weren't allowed to shoot them.
What a shame.
I was pretty annoyed about it. I was like, we could just call up the coppers and be like, hey, don't worry about some gunshots happen. They're like, no, like you'll lose your job. I like having a job.
Tempting.
So tempting. You got no idea. You would. So yeah, that's been really interesting, and I've gone on exactly 2 hunts since graduating uni, because I made this really awesome choice as a single guy living by myself to get a dog. So I can't just like leave the house for a week, because animal welfare and all that sort of stuff. It's very important.
Dog on Thursday, problem solved.
Dog on Thursday, that's right. So a few times a year I can offload him to a family member, and he can be their problem for a week. And I've gone down to hunt with Mel, and Mel's like literally the best hunter in Australia. It's like my scientific objective opinion. He does love art for me, so I gotta suck up. No, that's my scientific objective scientific opinion. She's the best hunter in Australia, and it's been good. Like we've gone out. It's the first time I've ever seen Samba. Just out hunting with her, hearing the Samba honk. Like that's incredible. Everyone's talking. Oh, like it sounds like a truck horn. Like bro, it's an animal. Like it can't sound like. Yeah, it sounds like a truck horn. It's really an interesting experience. Walking through the bush with a rifle, like on public land, which we don't have in Queensland. Like you're just out, like you're out there, and there's just a gunshot the next ridge over. You're like, bro, freaking, all right, because you hear that when you're on like your own property. Okay, things are going down. Because I've been working on properties, and there's like poachers have been there, and they've shot at the vehicle, like not hit it, but like they try and scare you off, kind of thing. It's like, this is my property, bro. Like I'm allowed to be here, but this is public land. So you're just out and you're hearing gunshots, and it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like no worries. Like people allowed to hunt it, that's fine. Like, damn, that's crazy. And seeing like blackberry, we don't have blackberries in Queensland. It's part of my job to try and make sure that no one gets blackberries, and seeing them. How invasive they are in just various spots is actually really incredible.
Did you have to climb through any?
We go around. No. I climb through enough things with my job. Spike you and hurt you, the Chinese apple and the Lakina and stuff. When I'm on my recreational time, I'll go the long way.
If I was Mel, I would have been like, oh, we have to go through this patch. You have to climb through it just to
no matter what, I can't keep up with her anyway. So no, but it's a really interesting experience going down to Victoria to hunt public land.
Yeah, 100%. Animals
that we don't have. It's an environment that I've read about but haven't seen. Well, I have now. I've gone hunting with them multiple times, but like seeing it is really incredible. And just the different animals there, the different trees, how it's like all slightly different. It's really cool. It's a great experience.
So you are still Australia's worst sandbar hunter because you actually haven't gone hunting down there. You've just gone on glorified bushwalks with the arm bushwalks.
Well, by that definition, I'm not the worst sandbar hunter because I haven't gone hunting for them. I've just gone bushwalking and scared them off. So I'm not the worst. I'm just not one.
Man, I was hanging for photos. I'm just like, if anyone can get you onto a deer, because you haven't shot a deer. Have you shot deer yet?
I have.
You have? Photos or
like
it didn't happen.
Years ago, sort of at helping a property out at Maidenwell, they sort of would have red go through. I'm not sure if you know where Maidenwell is. Let's go with.
I thought you were going to say I'm not sure if you know what reds are.
I'm pretty sure you don't. But near, let's go like Yarram. No, you wouldn't.
No, I don't know these places. It's all good.
In Queensland, and I just like help them clean them up and stuff. But pretty much since uprooting my life and going to university to study these things, I've gone hunting like not much, just pigs mostly off the crops and stuff.
Yeah, you did a trip to, what was that, New South Wales State Forest?
Yeah, I went to the State Forest a number of times.
Yeah,
I got a whole bunch of goats.
You're like, I have to take photos, otherwise Zach's not going to believe me.
Yeah. So a number of years ago, I went to Severn State Forest. I went to Mount Topper State Forest. I went to one other state forest. I can't remember the name. And Severn in a very short period of time, just back and forth, driving from North Brisbane. And Severn, the hunting campfire crew really helped me out. Like, hey, by the way, like, here's where it's like you camp. Like, it's safe to camp here. Like, you're not going to get bogged kind of thing. Because I'm going by myself. So, kind of sketch. And, yeah, went out and got some goats. Zach knows that I don't like trophy photos. It's a whole thing. Another time, but it was the first time I ever took a trophy photo, and the first time I ever took a trophy. I was like, all right, I'm going to have to get this photo, and I'm going to have to take its skull, which I did, and I buried it in the backyard, in the house I am now, back again now, and I went to look for it because I just moved back here. And I couldn't find it. I called up my dad. I'm like, hey, like, have you been around like the house lately? Do you know where my goat skull is? Like, oh yeah, like I dug it up and I took it home because your mum wanted it for school. I was like, oh, okay, cool, awesome. Like, it's my only trophy and now it's gone. I don't know where it is. So that's how much I care about trophies.
Some kid during a spelling bee just won it. Your mum's like, here you go.
Probably, yeah. So, yeah. No, it's a good time, but yeah, that's my hunting of the past number of years.
No, that's...
But I do a lot of bushwork for work, though. And, it's... Like, when you're out in the field doing, 10 to 13 kilometers a day, like 4 days a week. I don't want to do that anymore. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know if you know North Queensland too much, but it's where the actual mountains of Queensland are. So we don't have a lot of mountains. And just going through and doing either, just various species eradication programs, whether it's animals or weeds, just going through and doing that. Yeah, I come back and I'm like, damn, like, I think I'll watch movies this weekend and not go out bush, You're
soft. Yeah, need to go down and do another Severn trip. But yeah, that's
you should come to North Queensland and do the work then.
Okay, if you're going to pay me, let's.
You don't have money for that. But yeah,
I know. Yeah, so the Hunter's Campfire thing, I put you onto those State Forest podcasts when you were saying, I went this one. I'm like, hey, listen to these ones. The boys at Hunter's Campfire are, doing breakdowns of individual state forests. This is early on in their podcasting journey, and yeah, really, really helped you. And I think you've got 3-4 goats, and you come across a big pig from memory.
Yeah, knocked over over the course of those hunts. Yeah, 3 goats, and there was a pig like right by the campsite. So I pack up my rifle. It's over my shoulder. I'm going for a walk. I'm maybe 100 meters away. I'm like, I'm not going to see anything, 100 meters my camp. Like, obviously not, even though that's how it always works out. And gigantic pig just runs in front of me. I'm like, oh yeah, all right. And I'm like, whatever, keep walking and get onto goats. And it was actually really interesting because I was going through and I'm like, oh damn, like that's cool. Like this interesting formations of whatever. I see the goats. I'm like, cool. Start tracking them. I'm on top of a mountain. I can see they're below me, but they're kind of just like hanging about, walking a bit. And I'm like, they're going to bed down soon. I know they're going to bed down soon because there's water. They're going to go to the water. They're going to chill out. It's going to be an easy shot. So I start texting you. I message you over Instagram.
Yeah.
And like, hey, like, yeah, I can see some goats. I send you the video of zooming in on one. Like, yeah, I'll go get one soon. You're like, yeah, cool, go get one. And I'm like, oh, hang on, crap. Put my phone away. And there's a goat like right next to me. Like, oh yeah, hello. So that was pretty good. And then yeah, went down to the creek and they were there as predicted. Knocked them over. Done. Pulled some meat back. Come back to my campsite, and the wind has broken my poles off the tent.
That's right.
I was like, I was like so demotivated because the week before on the previous hunt, I had some car issues. I had 2 things break on my car. Come back, I'm like, bro, I'm like, just not doing this.
So how many hours is it to Severn from where you're based?
I think that was a good 9-hour drive.
Yeah, beautiful.
Which now, driving back and forth from North Queensland to Brisbane many times over the past 2 years, 9 hours, I was like, oh yeah, that's no worries. But I was pretty keen on not doing it, you know. Just.
And you got to meet got to meet a couple of the other podcast guests that have been on while you're up in North Queensland. You got to meet Jock and Cody, didn't you, while you're up there?
Yeah. So I've been talking to Jock for a while because you put us in contact to do some advocacy stuff, and you know he was like, "Hey, like I'm coming to Queensland. Can you help me out with the license and stuff?" And yeah, helped him out. Jock's a great guy. He's freaking fantastic. If you know no one's sort of follow him, you should follow him. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm coming up to your town soon. You want to hang out?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And he came out with his crew, and his crew can crush alcohol, or they can crush the drinks, that's for sure. And I was like, oh, damn, like I still got to work, you know. Like, and it's like, yeah, no, it's good. And Cody, big fella Cody, came up to Townsville. When I was there, so I made the drive off the property, a couple of hours to go see him. It's pretty awesome. It was a good experience. And Kate, Fentanyl, Lady Liberty.
Yeah, Kate as
she came to Townsville for a little bit. And yeah, hung out a little bit, which is a pretty good time. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, all great people. I think you know if you're not following them, you should follow them. They've got good stories to tell, and make some good content.
Yeah, Jock's the only one that's only been on once. Maybe I have to hit him up and see what he's been up to lately, because he's a crazy dude and he doesn't put out as much content as he used to. But a bit busy. Yeah, that's it. Moving on a bit, let's chat about something you mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode. You spoke about a book. What is it? What's going on there?
So for the past, let's go year and a half or so, Mel, which you may recall from earlier in the conversation, and I have been working on a book that has been published. In that it's gone to the National Library of Australia and will be coming out Easter, hopefully.
1 year.
No, it'll be out soon. Mel's done some great art. So it's a kid's book. It's a kid's activity book. So great for, you know, young ones who, like, let's say between like 6 and 12, who you want to get interested in hunting, or good for, like, if you're a bricklayer who goes hunting, perfect for them. It's right about your speed.
No,
and so what it is,
too much for me.
It's a combination of science. So my world, you know, like I said, I'm a qualified wildlife biologist, and hunting and an introduction to just hunting in general. So we go into what an invasive species is, because if you listen to this podcast, you probably know that what we hunt here are invasive species. again, sans the ducks, but we're not going to talk about ducks. It's a fun topic. So we go into what's an invasive species, all right? And what the science behind that is. And we list some, foxes and the scientific name, why they're here, like who introduced them, a little bit about the damage they do, which then, justifies why we go hunt them, rabbits, goats, deer, that sort of fun stuff. Both of us have our copies of the books out because I've given Zach a book. And there's multiple sections to the book, and which is like an introduction to hunting, what are invasive species. Then we go into like firearms. So as mentioned, I worked as a firearms instructor for many years, and I think firearm safety is very important. And it's good to expose people to firearms at a young age because guns are sick. Like guns are just mad. Like guns are awesome. But you want your kid to be safe with guns before they even shoot, right? So we break down, okay, like what a break action is, what a lever action is, what a bolt action is, what's rim fire, what's center fire, and then how to be safe, like the 4 rules of firearm safety. And that's a nice bit of fun.
Yeah,
and
also
each of these
go into the actions, you go into rim fire, center fire. It's very... I'm not sure what other states are like, but those that have done the firearms course in South Australia, this is basically, you've got 4 pages that are pretty much what we have to do here in our firearms course here in South Australia. So
in like an easily digestible way, like for kids. And each of these sections, they're broken up. The first half is like education, and the second half is activities. There's like crosswords. There's, color in this thing. There's like, what's the difference between this and that, which is really fun. And I think one of the most important sections it's called Why We Hunt. And this is written, but like everyone has a different reason for, like personal reasons why we hunt, right? And there's many reasons why anyone would choose to hunt, and none of them are wrong unless you're like abusing animals or something, like, but. Like, if as long as you're doing everything legally, there's really no wrong reasons to go hunting. Whether you're doing it for the conservation value, you want to remove invasive species, whether you're doing it because it's, something that's personal for you, whether it's, you want to go out to get food for yourself, for your family. Maybe it's like a bit of everything. It's really personal. And what we did was actually reach out to a number of friends and be like, hey, can you tell us your story so we can include it for the kids? So, of course, we have Zach. It's our number one. It's the first one mentioned, just to tell his story. And Khadija, Huntress Cats, tells her story in this, and it's really great. Mr. Cody, of course, and one of my friends, Forrest, who's a wildlife biologist in the US.
Galante.
So he mostly goes, that's the one. You name drop, not me. So he mostly, that side of it, he does a lot of conservation work, and his hunting is spearfishing because, not all hunting's on the land. And then Mel and I, of course, tell our stories. And
do you want to talk about how you done me in?
No, because that's going to be a surprise. So Zach has a fun mention in the book. And if you want to learn more about Zach's story, it's there.
Look, I didn't even pick up on it until he said something. I'm like, hang on, motherfucker. How come I don't get a cool name?
He gave nicknames to everybody except for Zach, is what he's trying to say. So if you want to learn about that, grab the book. And then we go into hunters' basics and safety after that, right? Because it's like, okay, you've learned about what you're hunting, right? In part 1, invasive species, we're hunting deer, we're hunting foxes. Okay, part 2, we learn about firearm safety. We learn about guns, learn about how cool guns are, how fun they are to shoot. And now we've learned, okay, I'm going to combine those two. Why do I want to hunt? Why are these people doing it? I need to figure out my own story. Cool. Now let's go. So we go hunters' basics and safety, right? Where Mel and I have gone, okay, here's what you need. First things first, probably a first aid kit after your firearm, or after your parents' firearm. It's for kids or bricklayers. you need water, you need a backpack, you need to make sure you're safe. And we go into tracking, like what kind of prints do deer make? What kind of prints do cats make? What kind of prints do foxes make? Now, you need to be able to differentiate that between native species, right? So we've got the tracks kangaroos make, emus, wallabies. You go into like what scratch marks a deer makes on trees, like their rubs.
Not the deers.
Like the deers. And we go into, okay, you've now tracked an animal. Where should you shoot the animal? So we go into like here's where you shoot an animal: front side, broadside, quartering, all that sort of stuff. Like teaching kids how to be safe, how to make ethical shots is really, and then of course the activities afterwards. Again, it goes into like hunting safety and little fun activities of color in like different animals in different scenarios, how you'd shoot them, and that sort of stuff. And then lastly, the last section is called the hunt. So this is the 5th section. There's no education, straight activities. And we've got 3 different scenarios of hunting scenarios, right? That are really fun, where we've just got these like examples of what a typical hunt might look like in different areas. And there's like all these native species, there's maybe trees, there's maybe like a forest setting, and there's huntable species in that activity. And the kids need to color in the book. They need to circle like, okay, I'm going to shoot that deer right there because I've just been told where to shoot it. And it's really good. I'm really happy with this. And I think anyone who buys it is going to be happy with it to teach their kids. Now, I don't have kids, but we have sent it to a number of people who do have kids. And I don't know much about parenting, but I would imagine what you do with a book is you go, hello, son or daughter, here is a book, and go through it with them, I think. I think that's what a dad does, right? You go through it with them, you teach them, and get them to. It should be a fun time. Everyone so far has had a good time.
Yeah, look, it's great. You sent it out to me because at first you were wanting it out Christmas time. I gave you a bunch of great criticism on it, advice on it, and the first copy. All the material in it is great, and I haven't gone through it with my kids yet because the advice that I gave you, I'm waiting for the final copy. But again, it's great stuff. It's fun. It's got lots of different activities in it. It's got some great information in it, and it's just going to be a great thing for hunters who have children that are interested in getting into hunting. But
not just them, right? I think a major thing that I would want is like if your kid's not into hunting, well, not yet, right? We want more hunters. And something about that we sort of brushed over with the stories is not everyone is born into the hunting life, right? So you were kind of born into it. Like, your grandfather took you out. Cody, of course, born on the farm and such. But, like, I wasn't. Forrest wasn't. Khadija, I think, sort of had to make her own way as well. And so we tell those stories because it's important for kids to know, like, look, this isn't something just for people who live out in the country. This is an activity. Like, hunting is for everybody. Hunting is for everybody, whether you were born and raised in the middle of the city, in the suburbs, or peri-urban, or in the country. Like it is for everybody, and it represents, or the stories represent everybody. That's it. From whether you're from the country or not, you're a tradie. Cody's a farmer. Cads is a bit of everything. I work as a scientist, sort of. Mel's an educator. Forrest is also a scientist. Like, it's not just for people who, sort of represent themselves as, like bush people, tradie people, stuff. It's literally everybody. And I want kids who come from those non-country backgrounds to feel represented and go, oh, like I can get into this as well. And like those parents give it to their sons and daughters and go, look, like, yeah, like if this is something you're interested in, you could do it too. It's not just like you. It's not just me working out in the field. Yeah.
No, it's great. And look, when I was a kid, because all my school projects as a kid were on invasive species. Like every time we had like a free choice assignment when I was in primary school, it was invasive species, whether it was like cane toads, foxes, goats, all of that stuff. As people who listen to the podcast regularly know, I was a Steve Owen nutcase. Like I was telling people who Steve Owen was before he was mainstream. So that's every project I ever done was on invasive species. So if this was in my school library as a kid, or if I got given it as a kid, I would go absolutely nuts, and it would be like
that's fantastic.
It would have been one of my prize things that I had, because it covered all the shit that I liked. Hunting and invasive species. So it's good, and I can't wait to introduce my kids to it. So.
And something that, maybe to reassure parents on, like I said, like I'm a qualified scientist. When I make a claim in this book about something, like it's referenced. I don't think many kids' books do that. Like it's not written like a science book. Don't worry. Like there's like I said, Zach can read it. So, it's for everybody. That's my good friend. I can say that sort of stuff. But like it's, if you're worried about your kid kind of going like propaganda, it's not propaganda, it kind of is, but they can take it to school and tell their teacher, hey, hello teacher, whatever your name is, like if you want to get up me for talking about hunting and stuff, here's like an actual science book. This is real science. We need to be going out there and killing invasive species. Hunting's good. I can prove it because I've got a book that says it. And of course, Mel, being an educator in like a school educator, was able to translate my science ramblings into something that's educational and digestible for the kids. So my main point is like it's actually real. It's everything in there is real, and not just like some random book and like whatever.
No, it's great stuff, and it would be awesome to see at hopefully like firearm stores and hunting shops pick it up, because it'd be awesome to see at the front counter there.
Two shops are interested in it so far.
That's awesome. I'll be putting the word down here to a few different shops once it's out and it has spruced up a bit.
Spruced up. Yeah. Well, like I said, hopefully it'll be out soon, and. Yeah, the idea is like, okay, yeah, it's a kid's book, but it is for everybody. And you don't have to be into hunting. And they don't have to be into hunting, because they're going to learn something. Hopefully you'll learn something. It should take a few hours to get through. So they'll be quiet for a few hours maybe. And I don't think kids are ever quiet. But
yeah, well, look, it's not something you would sit and get your kids to do in a couple of hours. It would be something that you get your kid to do, almost like fun homework.
Don't say that. No one's going to want to buy their kids homework.
Hey, it's better than maths and better than English, man.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
If my parents gave me hunting homework, I'd be all over it. I might have gone to uni. I know that's hard to believe, but
fair enough. I appreciate those. I think they were kind words.
Yeah,
I'm going to interpret that as kind words.
There's a compliment sandwich in there somewhere. But look, you had some challenges doing it.
Fantastic.
The artwork is fantastic. The copy we have, black and white. We'll mention that the first copy you brought out was a black and white copy, and I'm just like, I think you need to do a second run of it, and you need to do some color, because having kids, it come across more like a textbook than a children's book in the first
that's go. Why it was a pre-release, to get everyone's opinion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But when it comes out, it's like full color. The art is so good.
Thanks to Mel.
It's really. Yes. Yes, like I said, and she's the best hunter in Australia. So everything in there that's talking about hunting is legit. It's from someone who takes a lot of deer and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, it's awesome, and it's got like jumping like flicking through to forests.
Oh, don't give away too many spoilers.
I'm not going to read it. I'm just what's up there. Like you got forest stuff, you got Kads' stuff, you got Cody's bit, you've got your bit, you got Mel's bit, and it's very, very good. At the front you've got a very good blurb, whatever you want to call it. You've got your little
like activities,
references at the back. You've got your cheat sheets at the back. You've got a glossary. It's awesome. The kids will love it. I know my youngest will definitely love it. He's started school this year, so once we get the final copy out here, I'll be sitting down, and that will be.
Well, let me correct something you said earlier. Everyone who we sent it out to, except for Zach's kids, have loved it, including like family members of mine who have kids, have gone through it and enjoyed it. So
I'm gonna have to.
Everyone else did their job.
I'm gonna have to put this on the youngest's homework, his reading and writing homework, and send it to school with him. I'm just sure. I'm sure the teachers would love that. But it's awesome stuff, and it's hopefully going to get taken well by hunters and spread out. Like I said, I'd love to see it at hunting shops. So if you listen to this and go to your local hunting shop and tell them, hey, hit up Eureka Outdoors and we want to see this kids activity book in this shop front. So that way when we come here to buy ammo with our kids, they've got something that they can pick out.
Something to do. It'd be really interesting, in our community, we're always worried about the next generation, right? Like, is this an activity that will survive decades to come? Whether it's sport shooting, whether it's just people wanting to go outdoors, right? And I would hope one of the intentions of this is that this kind of does inspire kids like, all right, cool, like they're like 9. It's been a while since I've been 9, so I don't know exactly how they think, but they go, hey, like I went through this book. It's really cool. Like, can you take me out? Whether the parent does hunt yet or not, maybe it inspires the parent to be like, all right, like I'm going to have to go get my license. I'm going to have to, if I live in a state with public land, we can try like public land and like try it out. If the parent already does go hunting, maybe it just pushes them to be like, all right, I'm going to come out with them and I want to see what you're doing.
So in other words,
bonds.
Buy them, and then once you're done with them, sneak them into your kid's school library so that random kids find them and they start taking it home.
All right, so maybe it is a bit of propaganda to keep hunting alive.
Which I'm fine with. We need more of that.
Sure.
And again, you said it's going to drop around Easter-ish this year, so...
That's the plan, yes.
Awesome. Can't wait for that. Hopefully before Easter, but we'll see. It'd be a nice little Easter stocking
Healthier
stuffer.
Healthier than chocolate, right?
Yeah, 100%. A few bites out of mine already. Couldn't help myself. Jumping back a little bit, you had a interesting job interview with GMA.
Yes. So, and this is probably an important story for people, especially duck hunters, to hear. So, because I didn't know a lot about the GMA, I've just always seen them, from Queensland. I'm like, damn, like they seem pretty cool because they sort of are a conduit to allow you to go hunting on public lands, right? Which, as we've discussed, is super cool that Victoria has that.
100%.
But over the years, when I've doom scrolled through Facebook and read through the comments on GMA, I'm like, damn, not a lot of people like these guys. I thought they were top notch. But they get a lot of hate. And I think that comes from not really knowing much about the GMA and what they actually do. And so the point of that is just a preamble. At the start of last year, GMA put up a post saying we are after 4 compliance officers. 2 compliance officers, one to be at Benalla, one to be at like Bendigo or something, and 2 senior compliance officers, paid more. So obviously I was more interested in that, to be either at Lakes Entrance or Traralgon. And I looked through it, and the job ad for the senior was like you need to have a degree in either, you know, some sort of environmental science or policing, because like there's degrees in policing, and you need to have either any sort of environmental compliance experience or policing experience. A lot of my job, as mentioned, is this compliance work, is investigations, mostly not into poaching, but into animal trafficking and just people doing the wrong thing with invasive species. And I worked security for 5 or 6 years. So I was like, oh, hang on, like I qualify for this. You also need to have like a certain authorized officer level and, you know, things like that. Like, all right, cool. I'm going to call up the contact person, have a chat. Call him up. He's like, yeah, bro, what's going on? I'm like, all right, you're friendly. All right. Just gave him my story, what I do. Do I qualify? He's like, yeah, man. Just so you know, like we preference Victorian public service officers first. So pretty low chance you'll get through, but just in case you qualify, like, yeah, you'll be able to get through. I'm like, cool. And then I did. It's pretty interesting. I applied, and he called me up. It's like, hey, man, like, yeah, you beat out a lot of other applicants. We want to schedule an interview. Bro, all right. This is going to be mad because it paid a lot. Well, it paid more than what I make now. Well, I won't say a lot. Probably less when you account for rent. But it paid for more, and they're actually sworn officers. Powers of arrest, ballots and handcuffs, that sort of stuff. I'm like, damn, like that's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. But before you interview, you need to do this psychometric and aptitude testing. Like, that's crazy. I've never heard those words before. I've heard of aptitude testing, but psychometric testing of
what's the test?
Yeah, that's right. I can put it together what you mean, but like I've never had to do that for a job before. Say, oh yeah, no worries. Like it's easy. Like you'll be fine. But you have to do it before the interview, and it will dictate whether you do get an interview or not. Like, all right, that's pretty intense, like for a job, but it makes sense, and it ended up making sense afterwards. I get the link to do the psychometric testing, and there's 4 tests, 3 psychometric with personality tests, and 1 aptitude test. And the first psychometric testing, there was 33 questions, and it's like, how do you feel about this situation? Like, strongly agree, strongly disagree, you know, and everything in between, whatever, just basic questions. The second test was 68 questions, and it goes more into like leadership. Like, what would you do in this leadership situation? Like, how would you deal with someone doing this? How would you deal with someone doing that? Leadership stuff, 68 questions. I'm like, this is like a long day. The third psychometric testing was 364 questions. I was like, oh my God, what? All right. Like, and by now I'm going, okay, they are really vetting applicants. This is really interesting. And the questions were, okay, like things you'd expect, such as like, do you have suicidal thoughts and stuff like that? Because you're dealing with people who are potentially unhappy to see you. They need to see what your state of mind is. So do you have suicidal thoughts? Are you genuinely happy? And then throw in random questions. One was like, yes or no, my hobbies are archery and knitting. And I'm like, huh? What? like disagree, strongly agree, like, you know, yes or no to that. And my favorite poet is, I don't know, someone I couldn't recall and whatever. What does this have to do with anything? But it makes sense because they're just trying to get a baseline and see if you're paying attention as well. And you combine that with what they're actually after, such as, are you going to snap at, you know, someone you're potentially arresting? How are you going to go under pressure when you're going up to someone who's hunting they have a loaded firearm. When you're executing a warrant on people who have been poaching, so might be aggressive, they're trying to figure out how you're going to react in that situation before they even interview you. So I passed that, flying colors, apparently, obviously, because I got an interview. And then there was aptitude testing. The aptitude testing was pretty rough, like maths, literacy, and numeracy. I got through, obviously, I later found out I got like perfect scores on that, which I was like, holy crap, how did I get that?
Rub it in.
Yeah, that's right. I had to talk myself up a little bit. The pattern recognition I did really well, but that's another conversation. And
okay, Rain Man.
I ended up getting an interview, and they said like, look, there's 3 people interviewing for these 2 positions. Spoiler, like obviously I didn't get it, but we interviewed, and there was 2 people within GMA, 2 authorized officers, like high in the compliance, like head of Western compliance and then head of overall compliance. And then a psychologist was on the panel. And this is the first time I've been on an interview where there's been a psychologist on the panel. And I thought that was really interesting because, again, what they're doing is vetting for people. They want the best. And it was just a really professional experience. It really highlighted how professional these people are.
Yeah.
That they're going through all this vetting. That vetting knocked people out of the race. Like that psychometric testing did actually knock back some applicants. The aptitude testing did knock back some applicants. So the people who progressed are really top notch. And so the 2 people they obviously hired would have been really, really good. That made me sound like really bad because I didn't get the job. But the whole experience is really professional. And I think it really highlights that the people who work for the GMA are sort of the top of the game. We talked about, I was like, hey, like I'm in compliance. I see that you require a police course. I've done some police work through my current job. And they're like, yeah, we require that. I was like, so what's the goal with it? And they talked about how actually other regulatory bodies within Australia come to the GMA to get trained by them on compliance work and how to approach people and how to execute an operation and things like that. They talked about how they are very hands-on. Like they make actual arrests. It's pretty wild. But like I said, the whole experience was super professional.
Yeah,
I didn't get the job. And I was just talking about it, and they said, it's like, look, the 2 people we hired have more hands-on experience than you do, is the only thing. And I said, so I should have mentioned that I worked security for 5 years and trained jits and stuff like that. They went, yeah, you probably should have mentioned that, mate. I was like, yeah, all right. But he mentioned, he was like, look, the thing is like this past weekend, we arrested 30 people. And they were protesters. They were duck protesters. So they do arrest the protesters. Hunters, yes. They do actually do that. But he said that weekend, 2 days, they made 30 arrests. So they are super hands-on. They're very proactive. And the people who they end up getting are very professional. And I think if you deal with the GMA, like if you're hunting in Victoria, if you're part of this, if you're a duck hunter, I think they deserve a lot of respect.
100%.
In my opinion. I'm not just trying to suck up so I get the next job because I'm pretty happy where I am. I did some really cool stuff. I think they do some really good work. And I think, but the point of this was that please stop hating on the GMA. Something that they talked about as well. I asked them, I was like, look, your job hinges on hunting being around. How do you deal with pro-hunting and anti-hunting rhetoric, and also the fact that Parks Victoria are out to eliminate the deer? And they go like, look, our job is neither to be pro-hunting nor anti-hunting. And legislatively, they're not allowed to be pro-hunting or anti-hunting. They're not allowed to be. A lot of people in comments are like, GMA need to do their job and promote hunting and stuff. They're not allowed to. Legally, they're not allowed to. Our job is to regulate the act that allows for hunting on public lands, well, this hunting in general. And that's what they do. They regulate it. They sort of allow it to happen. They have a research component which puts out world-class research on hunting and the effectiveness of hunting. Also some things that people interpret as anti-hunting, such as the lead in dogs and stuff. if you actually read what they published, it's not anti-hunting at all. It's educational, and they have an extension program as well that's just like the WIT test and that sort of stuff. So, well, I think T stands for test, so just the WIT, and but yeah, the compliance component and everything you see on Facebook is actually run by really high-level professionals who know exactly what they're doing. I asked him, "Do you hunt?" And he was like, "I'm not sure if I should answer that." I'm like, "Come on, bro. Like, come on." He's like, "Yep, I hunt. He hunts. They hunt. Pretty much most people in GMA hunt, except for like some of the people in like the accountants and like, you know, that sort of stuff. But the researchers, he reckons, most of them hunt. The compliance officers, most of them hunt. So they're fully aware of what hunting is like in Australia, and they do it. They're not anti in their personal lives, and in their professional lives, they're very neutral, and they have to be. So it was a really interesting experience. So please, just stop commenting crap on the thing. You make us look bad.
And they don't make the laws; they just have to enforce the laws.
Yeah, they can provide advice on legislative changes, as what's happened with the regulations change of this year or last year, sometime recently. But yeah, they're not the politician.
That's it, and that's something that we see. You know, as you've stated, you see hunters talk shit on GMA. I've got a lot of respect for them. I've tried getting some GMA guys on, but you know, they can't, unfortunately. But you know, it's eye opening to see what it's like, and it was eye opening at the time. When was this? 12, 13 months ago we were talking about this, when you were going through the process and you were telling me all about it. Yeah, it's very eye opening to see how stringent they are with their applications and the people that they allow through, which is awesome to see, because you know it's going to cut out any of the crazy anti-hunting people from making it through. So even though, you know, soon as they see any of it, they'll never make it through that. You know, if Dan
but also the other side of it as well, you know, if you're outwardly, you know, super pro hunting, they're gonna be like, man, like, are you going to let people slide?
Yeah, exactly.
And that is actually really bad for hunting. By, you know, if you're not prosecuting the poachers and the people doing the bad thing, it's really bad for everybody. So it gets rid of the other side as well, and just puts through level-headed people who can do the job.
That's it. Something I forgot to cover when we were talking about the book. You've got another project coming out. Let's talk about that quickly.
Sure. Okay, so if we're going to talk about it, I'm going to actually have to follow through on it, which is why you brought this up.
This is why, because I've been, how long you've been, again, 13, 14 months of preparation so far, and I've heard...
I'm very busy.
Not busy enough. You should be pumping these out, my friend.
Sure. So what Zach is talking about, for the past, probably 12 months, maybe a bit longer, I've been writing and recording a podcast series. It's not perfect yet, but the intention is to do a deep dive on various species that we hunt in Australia. I don't intend for the podcast to last forever. It's specifically, I want to grab a species that we hunt and talk about it. And by talk about, I mean go from how that species arrived on Earth, as in like how it evolved, where it's come from, and then how did it get to Australia? Why did it come to Australia? Because that's really important for hunters to understand. That's important for conservation efforts. Why did this get here in the first place? Then we'll talk about, okay, how did this spread? Why did it spread? Why does this species work when this other species didn't? And, you know, this the steps in history of how it got from where it was first introduced to its current range. And talk about the impacts. So, for example, what I have recorded so far is to do with rabbits, and it's about like 4 hours. I'll break it up when I release it. It won't be 4 hours straight. It'll be broken up. but that's what I mean by deep dive. It's intense. So I talk about, okay, the rabbits are from the Iberian Peninsula, right? That's Portugal, by the way. And they were brought here in 1859 for one specific purpose, to hunt. Lots of factors cause the rabbit to spread across Australia. Mostly people wanting to hunt them, spread them. So that's a very important part of hunting history. And trappers were spreading them because trappers wanted to make money. And there's also a lot of evidence that trappers were blackmailing property owners with, I'll release rabbits on your property if you do not give me some money. It's very interesting. Anyway, you'll find that out when I release it eventually. But go into, okay, it's spread across Australia. What are the impacts? Because, all right, so there's this invasive species here. What's it doing? Is it doing anything? Why is that bad? And explain what it's doing in different regions of Australia, how it contributed to the Federation drought. So that's the drought of 1900s or so. How it sort of just ruined a lot of farms and continues to ruin farms. What are the effects on the environment? How it's outcompeting certain species, and that kind of stuff, which has been really fun to research. Although it kind of feels like work, so not too fun sometimes, and that's kind of why it's taken a long time, because it feels like work. And then sort of step after that, so maybe the next episode after that is, okay, how has it been controlled historically? When did Australia realize, oh, rabbits are bad, we should start like controlling them? What did they do back in the 1800s? What did they do in the early 1900s with trapping, with shooting, and all that sort of stuff? And then how did the industry make the problem worse? It's a really important part of our history, which we should probably talk about why that's important for control efforts of other species. How did industry make it worse? How did all that? And then, yeah, like I'm really interested in how someone hunted in like 1880. You know what I mean? Like they don't have semi-auto 223s. You wouldn't use that. You'd use a 1022. I used to have a 1022. That was really awesome. But they didn't have 1022 to pop off rabbits. You couldn't go to the store and buy heaps of traps for cheap. You'd have to make your own trap, or there were some commercial entities making traps. So what do they do? It's just really interesting to read about, and I really hope it's interesting here. Go into how early Australians brought mongooses into Australia to deal with the rabbits. I didn't even know until doing this deep dive. But we brought mongoose, to be like, it worked. And then the mongoose died, so it didn't work too well. But then, go into that. And then the most important thing about rabbits is the viruses, right? That's a monumental piece of Australian history. The myxomatosis virus entering Australia, reducing the population of rabbits from 1 billion to about 200 million. That's an insane number. That's insane. And it worked so well until it stopped working. So go into, okay, how did it come in? What were the hurdles? And what did it actually do? And then calicivirus, so rabbit hemorrhage disease, RHD, and then the latest ones. And then just like, look, what can you do? What can you do as a hunter to help people deal with rabbits? Night vision, thermals, all that sort of stuff. And what do the various governing bodies who deal with agriculture recommend how agriculturists deal with rabbits? So it's a real deep dive, and then going to do the same thing with foxes. Already written, haven't recorded, busy. How did the fox get here? What's it do to the environment? Why should we kill things? Because, lots of people, why are you killing that animal? It's like, well, if you knew what it did to the environment and to farms, like, you'd want it dead too. If you knew how much these foxes do to the environment, you'd want it dead too. And I think it's maybe important for someone who's not a tradie cowboy, like you used to tell people, but if someone can be like, hey, look, this person's like a scientist, well, not like, is a scientist. these each have 50 plus references. Like, this is not someone talking about it. This is a legitimate conversation about what these animals are doing in Australia. You can't argue against it.
I'm keen for it, man. It's almost like
it's more propaganda.
It's
for
more like
why hunting is necessary in Australia, because these animals do bad things.
Yeah, it's like a Dan Carlin's like horrible history, but with from Daniel Cole.
Yeah. I'm more about over like Andrew Huberman. I think he's really good. That's the style I want to go for, but I don't have his deep voice. And
oh, really? I haven't noticed.
No, and 30 years of experience and a PhD, but it's that kind of thing that I want to put out there to really just justify. It's like, hey, look, these animals are bad. Here's exactly why, and here's why hunting is good for Australia, because they're getting rid of these animals or contributing to the eradication of these animals. So you're gonna love the deer one.
I can't wait. Speaking
but that's
of
the intention.
Thermals, rabbits, foxes. We've just had the Fox-tastic weekend. I don't want any massive spoilers, but you've been tasked with doing a write-up on the Fox-tastic weekend.
Yeah. So what I've been doing with Maxwell, love that name. Like, bro, Maxwell. Like, that's a strong name.
He's got the moustache to suit it, man.
Bro, what a man, what a legend. So if you don't know who that is, his Instagram handle's inthedark.au. There's Maxwell. Like, what more do you need to know? And this dude just goes out and smashes foxes. Just kills foxes. Like, for fun. I mean, it is fun. And so every year he runs the Fox-tastic weekend. It's like a hunting competition. Sign up to it. He can explain the rules. But the goal is anyone across Australia can sign up, go out for 2 nights, and just kill foxes. Just kill foxes.
Not just foxes, but
rabbits, deers, hares,
pigs,
anything that's bad for the environment that's legally able to be shot. And you'll do a tally. And, you sign up as a team, you can win prizes, you win competition stuff, I think he's made like trophies.
Yep, he made trophies,
stuff.
Done a giveaway, bunch of different prizes from some awesome companies. Eureka Outdoors.
Well, I contributed, yes. But I hit him up a couple of years ago and I'm like, hey man, this is really awesome that you're doing. I can't promise you we can get anything published in a scientific journal, but what we can do is you give me the numbers and I can find resources that outline, look, an individual fox on average will kill X amount of native animals or livestock or anything else like that, which it's out there. Foxes are very well studied, and even down to what area. So hopefully next year he gets like pins from everybody and we can nail it down to the per area. And so what I do is I write up something for him and say, look, you killed 385 foxes through this competition. Foxes kill this amount of mammals, this amount. Oh, I'm not going to say it. I have the notes next to me, but Max is going to say it on his next podcast. So
don't spoil it. He'll get
the spoilers, even though this is going to come out afterwards. But we go like, look, those 385 fox deaths have saved this amount of reptiles, this amount of birds, these amounts of just overall native animals, and this amount of livestock. So you're talking about like your ewes and your calves and stuff. So I'm really happy that he's doing that. It's a really good initiative. He spends a lot of time on it, and I think everyone, like, if you have property, please sign up to it. I think $25 a year or something is for the ticket to be part of the draw.
25 per person to be a part of it.
Sure.
And it's a random draw. I just competed. I was with Haydog and my mate Brad. You get to come up with some fun team names. We were 2.5 diabetics.
Yeah.
Good laugh there. If you don't know the backstory to that, go back and listen to the Hunt Companion episode I did about 2 years ago now. So that's a good laugh there. But yeah, there was some awesome team names. All the prizes are drawn randomly, which is awesome because it's Max's thing is he doesn't want, if you've got the best property, he doesn't want the person with the best property winning the prizes. He wants it all random draw, so everyone's got an equal chance. If you do get first, second, third, he had some awesome trophies made up, and he did the live giveaway. I'm not sure if you've got the numbers of animals taken. You said 3.
I do for the foxes, 385 foxes,
and
172 cats.
That's awesome.
It's so good. Oh, sorry, not 100. What am I doing? What am I looking at? Sorry. Last year was 172 foxes. This year was 385 foxes. There were 16 feral cats this year because the main target is foxes. But, something really great about this. So it's like, okay, it's one dude being like, hey, can everybody who has access shoot some foxes this weekend and you'll get a prize? You might get a prize. And so lots of people do. Here's only like 700 followers on Instagram, right? So he's not got a huge reach, but yet him doing that got 385 foxes killed, which is a lot of native animals saved, which is really important to me. So one dude doing that is really good, which goes to show how good hunting is for Australia.
100%. And I think there was 80 people registered this year, so 82 or 83. So his goal was 80, and he hit that. So which was awesome to see.
Yeah.
So next year,
everyone makes a difference,
Keep an eye out. Register a team, whether it's a solo team or you get a. Like I said, I had a car full of people. We had a 3-person team, and then we had just another mate from my work to come out and tag along. He's from Ecuador, so he's never experienced anything like it before. Took him out as just a backseat driver. He was our gate bitch. So he was very excited to get out there and experience all of it. So we lost a couple foxes, lost a couple cats in the long dry grass, where a thermal would be awesome to see that, which none of us
what
could
you're
afford.
Saying is you would have won if you didn't lose them. Like you would
have
definitely
not.
What you're saying. It's what you're trying to say. It's like, if I didn't lose these foxes, I would have been the winner.
No, I still would have come dead last with the the amount of foxes taken that. But it was, it's just an awesome way to get out. It runs over 2 nights. It's a new learning curve. This is the 3rd year it's been running. The first year was ran on a full moon. Which made things very, very, very interesting. Last year I couldn't attend because we had a family trip because the last 2 years have been held on a long weekend down here in South Australia. You guys had a hurricane up there. Cyclone, same shit. Spins different direction, whatever. But you had that up there to deal with, so that put a lot of Queensland people off. So he had a few people pull out. So it would have been bigger numbers if that wasn't going on. So, but it's awesome to see. And Maxwell's a bloody cool guy, and he's come up with a awesome bloody thing.
And just like the thing that really shines for me is people getting together and doing it. But like I said, it really shows how valid recreational hunting is to conservation efforts. And I think that's really important. That's important for me. That's why I do what I do. I just love the native environment. And, when you're going out there and you are hunting foxes, when you are hunting cats, when you're killing pigs, when you're killing deer, you as an individual are helping the environment. And then when you're doing it as part of a drive, that's insane. So much, there's so many benefits. So just, if you're ever sort of going like, why am I doing this? It's like, because you're doing good.
I don't think many hunters are questioning why they do it.
Maybe not the people who listen to your podcast, they're pretty into it. But there are a lot of people who just who I've sort of just met over the years, and they're like, sometimes it feels like it doesn't make a difference, but it does. Absolutely does.
Yeah, that's That's a different way of looking at it.
I know you do it for different reasons, but like this is what I do, and I think it's really important to show how valid recreational hunters are in the conservation realm.
Yeah, man, I get it. Speaking that I took some new guys out to experience hunting. You've introduced some pretty unexpected people to hunting. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we've talked about it a little bit before, like just my time at university, but I think it's really important to go over it again because there's been some new additions. And why this is important is I listen to your podcast, listen to other podcasts, and you go on about the greenies, the lefties, the vegans, all that sort of stuff. Inner city people, university people, latte sippers, and all that. And in my opinion, when you do that, you're potentially alienating a lot of people who are into hunting.
Yep.
Who might otherwise be into hunting, because really, hunting and shooting, they aren't left and right activities. They're just activities that people like to do. And that's been really emphasized in my life in the past, let's say 5 years, by, like I said, some unexpected people. Like I went to uni, my mid-20s. Don't do that. No, you should. Anyone who wants to go to university, you should do that. And I was expecting I was pretty close-minded. I was like, yeah, this is going to be like the memes. This is going to be the stereotype I'm going to come across. Socialists and people who aren't into hunting, because I went to university in the middle of the city, Brisbane. But it was the opposite. Everyone was like super keen because it doesn't matter if you're left or right, inner city, hunting's sick. Guns are sick.
100%.
They just need to be sort of enlightened a little bit. So I'm going through university and I meet this girl. I won't say her name. It's just like in my first group project ever. Everyone's like talking about what do you do, whatever. I'm like, yeah, like I work security, go bush sometimes. It's like, oh, yeah, what do you do at bush? I'm like, yeah, all right, let's set the tone. Yeah, I go hunting. It's like, oh, that's sick. Like this chick from like inner city Gold Coast. Like, oh, that's mad ass. Like my family goes hunting. I don't, but like my family does. Hang on. I'm gonna be friends with you. And then she barely contributed to the group assignment, so I was like, nah, stuff this. But I was like, okay, that already set the tone. I'm like, oh, okay, like hunting's not something to sort of hide, you know? Like these people are actually pretty open about it. And so as I go through university, I meet someone else. I meet someone who's still a really good friend of mine today, who I would not have expected at all to be into it. I mean, his friend, I'm not going to say her name, or he's different. I'll say Chloe. And she's still a good friend of mine. And I'm talking to her. Oh, like, what do you do? You know, security, whatever. So what do you do? She's like, I'm a bartender. You're not a bartender. I don't believe that at all. You're sure? What the fuck? How did you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I've just got the good intuition. So this is someone who works a very, what you'd think as like a left wing, like a greenie type person. You know what I mean? Works the most non-conservative freaking job in the world. And as I talked to her, as I get to know her, she's talking about the issues that people in her world face. Talking about debanking, as in just banks will see eventually catch on. It's like, hey, you're a stripper or otherwise, or other type of worker, and they'll just close your bank account. I was like, damn, that's happened to like a friend of mine who ran a gun shop. They just closed his bank account, made $20 million a year, and they're like, nah, just for ideological purposes, shut his bank account down. And, he had to switch banks for the thing. And she talks about, like, we're always demonized in the media. Bro, mate. It's like hunters. Like, when's the last time you saw a positive hunting article? Like, that's a good point. Or a gun article. You know, something praising gun owners. Never. And she's like, that's a good point. And just like public perception. The public perception of sex workers is not great, especially in Queensland. And there's a long history of that, going back to government many decades ago. I was like, public perception of hunters is pretty terrible. She's like, damn, like that's really interesting. And you know, she hasn't come out, but she has wanted to come out hunting. But it's just like damn, like she's all for it, and largely because it was just that conversation of being like, hey, by the way, sorry, I'm just playing with it. I've got a 308 round in my hands, and I need a fidget. It's empty, but there's a screw inside this, and it's like my fidget toy. Sorry about that, if you're hearing it. But like I said, this is all setting the tone for being like I should have had an open mind about people I was going to meet in university, in the inner city university. She votes left wing. It's all for gun ownership, all for hunting. We go through. I meet another friend of mine who's still a really good friend, Michael. Again, not his real name, and he's vegan. I didn't even know that until like we had like a few assignments together doing some stuff. We were going out bush, like who I go like doing the photography with and all that sort of stuff. And one day he just says like you know I'm vegan, because we were saying like let's go get some steaks and whatever. I was like, I didn't know that at all. I thought you were cool. It's like, all right, whatever. And so I'm talking to him. I was like, you know what I do? Like we've talked about hunting before. I was like, yeah. But you're hunting invasive species. You're doing a net positive for the environment. Like, yeah, you're killing animals, and I don't particularly like that. But ultimately, it's for the benefit of the Australian ecosystem. And now he's no longer vegan, and he might be coming out hunting soon.
It's good to hear.
Which is really, really interesting.
He converted one.
Yeah, well, actually, it's like for health reasons and stuff. You have to stop being vegan, but we'll say it's because I was so influential. And you know, like as I'm going through,
all that arsenic you were putting in his veggie burgers worked.
That's right. Like I said, we're trying to convert as many people to the hunting life as possible. I started dating this girl in university again, inner city Gold Coast, all for hunting. Everyone I meet in university is all for hunting. I was so surprised. And look, I'm not the most personable person. You know that. I'm not great at making friends. And look, I'm decent looking, but I'm not great looking. So it's not like these girls were, you know, trying, you know what I mean? Like trying to suck up, you know, whatever. Like, no, it was just like they understood that hunting is good. And these are left-wing people. And so the point of that is you start rambling about the lefties, the greenies, the inner city people, you're alienating people. I graduate university, and on my last year of university, I start seeing a different girl. This one's a bit rough, but yeah, and after a little bit, like, she's like, hey, I'm vegan. I'm like, God damn, how do I keep finding you guys? And again, I had the conversation with her. It's like, you know what I do? I go out bush and I kill things. Huh? It's like, yeah, I know that. But you kill invasive species. It's a positive for the environment. It's like, so what do you think about hunters in general? It's like, oh, well, they don't really like me much. I'm like, well, yeah. It's like, but I'm actually all for their activities. She's all for it because it's getting rid of invasive species. And so again, the point is, you start, you know, going on about these people, they actually are probably on your side. And the most poignant person was someone else I met. Freaking the strangest experience of my life, of my entire life. Strangest person I've ever met. Not a first aid course. You got to keep up with your first aid, especially when you're going out bush. Early 2023, at where I used to work, and lots of people on this course. Everyone's over 50. There's one person under 50. She's also under 40. Oh, she's actually my age looking. Damn, that's crazy. And it's a girl. So obviously, I don't go talk to her, obviously. God, who'll do that? That's scary. No, we sort of have a lunch break up and talk to her. And I know in my head, this is one of the people you hate, like figuratively. Neon pink hair, like hipster tats everywhere, potentially dressed a little bit inappropriate for a first aid course, you know what I mean? Bit short. And I'm just like talking to her and stuff. And she's saying like she wants to get into security, do all that sort of stuff. I was like, what do you do now? I knew the answer to this before I even asked. But she's like, yeah, I don't want to say it, but she does some things for money, which good on her. OnlyFans and, all that other stuff that people pay for. I'm sure legally. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. And then she goes on about, but what I'm getting into is actually sex worker advocacy. I'm like, oh, I'm part of a board of directors of a firearm advocacy organization. She's like, oh, that's crazy. I already want to get into shooting. Like, what do you mean? Like, you wouldn't think that these worlds would collide. And she starts going on about all the issues that they face. And I'm like, I've heard this before. Debanking, public perception, unfairly targeted by the police. All sounds familiar, right? Unfairly targeted in legislation by politicians. Like, damn, like literally 1-for-1 issues are the same between the sex worker world and the shooting world and the hunting world. And I was not expecting that. And it was a very awkward conversation because I'm very awkward.
Oh, really?
But it's interesting. So we formed a friendship, just a friendship. And I took her to the range. And she was like, this is the coolest experience ever. It's like, well, like the people you kind of want to vote for, because she said she actually was part of the Greens for a while, like, want to take this away. It's like, what do you mean? Like, well, actually all of the parties really want to introduce legislation to try and restrict firearm ownership, reduce hunting opportunities, reduce shooting opportunities.
Yeah.
And they do this in roundabout ways. And then I used her own examples to make examples. I'm like, look, what you do isn't specifically banned, but there are all these random laws which don't make anything safer for you or the client. I'm way out of my depth here, but they're still the law and you can be targeted for them. Well, in the shooting world, there are laws that are made that don't make anyone safer. It just makes firearm ownership harder, such as restricting the amount of firearms someone may be able to own, restricting calibers, actions, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't make anyone safer. Yeah. All it does is just make this harder. It's like, damn, like that is like exactly the same. And she kind of had that moment of like, like this isn't left or right. This is just freedom, not freedom kind of stuff. And I don't want to get into, political compass sort of stuff. I'm just saying, like, there are a lot of issues out there and it's not left or right. And so I took her shooting multiple times. She wanted to get her gun license, she wanted to go hunting. And she even came to me. It's like, look, I actually went to like my organization and I told them all about this and I told them about you. I'm like, oh, please don't. But she's like, oh, and like all my friends like want to come out. I'm like, you want me to take a whole bunch of sex workers out to the range? She's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like, one of you is hard enough to deal with. But I'm very glad that they have understood this concept. And it was just like insane because these are people who, what are the appropriate words that I'm looking for? Non-binary, transgender, like the most inner city lefty latte, the baristas, they're working at the coffee shop, the blue hair, the short blue hair, the people you go on about, they're all for hunting. Now,
not all.
They're all for gun ownership. Okay, not all, but like these ones in particular, because they just needed to be shown like, hey, like this doesn't make anyone more dangerous. Like you had your friend come out and she had a blast, didn't hurt anybody, didn't hurt herself, understood that the laws, some are okay, and probably do contribute to public safety, but most are arbitrary and don't, just like your world. And so the word got back to me. I didn't meet too many of them. I was look, I'm open-minded. I'm not that open-minded at times. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. So I just had my friend and then her girlfriend and stuff. But, the word come back, like they're all interested because of this one person just being introduced to it.
No,
and, we talked about, it's like, can you listen to these podcasts? There was a few. It's not just yours. There's a few. How do you feel like our perception of you guys are? It's like, well, like if I knew the hunting community was like this, like I'd feel pretty alienated. I wouldn't be able to get into it because, yes, I am more left-wing in my views, progressive in my social views, but I think hunting's awesome. I think guns are cool. I can see that it's not left or right, but I still want to do this. But if I go to these organizations, if I meet these people, they're going to be unhappy with me generally. Probably won't be accepted. And I was like, well, I don't want to say you would or wouldn't be accepted, but the perception is that they wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And when I'm calling you out a little bit, but it's okay because we have a many years long friendship. When the word from the hunting community is those damn lefties, those damn inner city people, whatever, it's like, well, these are people who potentially could be into hunting. Don't attack them.
I don't think I've ever used inner city people. That's.
I think you have.
Never.
I'm not going to go through hundreds of hours of podcasts, but like, there are hunting podcasts out there who have said those words. This has come from somewhere, and I think it's just really interesting. Like, this is the most, like, you would never expect this person to be pro hunting or pro firearms, right? You look at it, and it's like I said, like the neon pink hair, and just like okay, this is.
I 100% agree.
This is so interesting
that people from all backgrounds can enjoy it, but you know, it's one of those things. If you like hunting, you like firearms, you call them my books. So it doesn't matter what background you come from, you know. But
you've got to be able to let them come in.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm talking about it in a negative way is, you know, the dismissal when there's something happening that you don't like, and you just instantly blame it on the other. It's like, bro, like, this is a boogeyman. You can't just make it up. And then, of course, after that, working with scientists and working with some of the people who contribute to some things, some documents that you don't particularly like, they're all hunters. All these people who publish, studies that come out that go through the hunting Facebook groups. Look at this. Oh, it's all crap. That scientist hunts. That scientist absolutely is a hunter. If there's a study coming out about deer and the impacts to the environment, that person's a hunter. They got into this because they want best for the environment, and they want best for the environment, and they hunt. All the top deer scientists, all the top deer scientists in Australia, they're all hunters. The pig researchers, they hunt. So I think it's something that I think the community needs to work on, and to be like, to stop othering, and understand a lot more people are into this if you just let them be part of it.
Yeah, 100%. No, I definitely agree with you, and you definitely hit on some interesting points there, and hopefully people take note of some of it, and you know, it would be good to see people getting into hunting from other walks of life. You know, I've said on this podcast before, but it's awesome to see the amount of women getting into hunting and shooting, which is fantastic to see, and especially not just getting into it, but you know, people like Kate, she's above and beyond, and she's doing as much as she can to fight for firearm ownership. And you know,
absolutely,
you know, looking at Kate, and you know, I know she won't take any offense by this, but you know, you look at her and you'd think she'd be on the other side. She's a very alternative, and you know, she's
I see what you're saying.
Different tats, and you know, stuff like that. So
we almost got cancelled there.
No, Kate knows we love her, and yeah, but it's just one of those things. You know, you can't judge a book by its cover when it comes to these sort of things, and it is hard at times because your first instinct is to curse the other when you're like, these people are trying to take away my what I enjoy. The first thing is it's them versus us, and it's that's the first thought, but it's not always like that either. So
no, that's right. And like you've experienced, that Labour fella, it's like, I want, well, he specifically didn't say I want people with guns, but sounds like he's more pro-gun than not.
100%.
But his Labour, So you just got to have these chats. Like I said, these people, university that I met, you have a chat and they're like, oh yeah, hunting's cool, like whatever. These vegans, it's fine. There's other people, like you said, they would vote Greens, they would vote Labor, but think hunting's cool, think guns are cool. So just going off is really bad for the community, in my opinion. And I would hope that moving forward, it's more open, and instead of just like attacking the boogeyman and throwing out some buzzwords, it's like this person, this politician has tried to introduce this thing. Let's do it them and not just generalize.
It's hard. We all do it. You do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do it.
I do it against you all the time. I'm like, God damn, Zach and his kind.
Don't worry.
Bricklayers.
Cody and I curse you out all the time behind your back too. So,
that's okay.
But no, look, it's been good to get you back on, and we've touched on a number of interesting topics and some awesome work that you're doing and things you're bringing out. Again, if you want to check out the merchandise that Dan has over at Eureka Outdoors and poster, keep an eye out for these children's activity books.
We should probably say the book is called Hunter and Training, a kid's introduction to conservation through hunting in Australia. So we didn't mention the title before, which probably should have said what we need to be on the lookout for.
That's all right. We'll blast Facebook groups with it all anyway. And yeah, it's some awesome stuff. That deer poster that's up and available. It's an A1 size poster, so nice, good size, and amazing artwork. And yeah, you have a number of different shirts, conservation style shirts.
Yeah, just the one at the moment. Try to reduce them so you could just sort of make it a bit easier. But like hunter gatherer, it's number one. Show who you are, where you've come from. And like I said, like the point, like what this funds is it funds the website, so I can freaking get some thoughts out. Because I think what we didn't touch on is like I do a lot of political submissions. Like when there's a consultation, I try and spend a lot of time to write a submission to it and go like, look, here's what you're asking for, or here's what you've asked. Here's how recreational hunters can contribute. And I use the fact that I have a degree and work in this field as sort of credibility, and put a lot of references in. It's all sort of like objective and tailored towards recreational hunters and hunting to try and get them included. And doing it for free sucks. I'll always do it because I'm really passionate about hunters being part of the solution. But that's like, if you're just thinking like, it's just like a business for the sake of having a business, it's really for that, to do more of that. And go on the articles and read them. And the point has never been like, put something out cool and buy it for the sake of it being cool. It's like, look, if I can contribute to the hunting community in some way, I want to.
100%.
And if that earns, you buying something, that's what it's for. I want to sort of earn people's sort of purchase.
And you're not cool unless you're seen in EO gear.
Yeah, well, that or Max's gear, or Maxwell. We've got to say his name in full.
Yeah.
Or Maxwell's gear. Yes.
Hopefully there's some cool combinations coming out of that.
Yeah. So, I've talked a lot. Like, how do you feel about the people in the community, and just sort of what can we do to get more people in? Because you asked that question a lot. I want to ask you that question.
Just taking people out. Invite people out to go target shooting. If you're in a state where you can take someone out on private property, go do that. If not, convince them to go get their license, like I've done with multiple people, and then go take them out. And just education, bring meat in, share it around in in places you can.
Places you can. It's very important to understand the law in terms of taking meat off properties.
But
please don't break the law.
That's a different story when it comes to that, because we'll never ever agree on.
Oh, it's not whether we agree personally or not. It's what the law is.
Yeah, again, I still don't agree with the law.
I'm not going to tell people to break the law. Is the thing, so.
Yeah. But yeah, so just take people out, cook people wild game, and enjoy nature.
How would you approach that conversation?
I just find any excuse to bring up hunting,
Yeah.
nearly any conversation, and then bring up, all the bits and pieces, and then they go, oh, but what about, you'd never shoot a lion, would you? I'm like, yeah, only because I can't afford to. If I had the money to, I would. And then they're like, what? And then I explain to them the whole Africa side of stuff, the North American side of stuff, the European side of stuff, the Australian, New Zealand side of stuff, and they're just sitting there gobsmacked.
Yeah, so something that I'm worried about when we go hunting, so not so much hunting, but introduce someone new, and I know you want to wrap this up, but this is really important. I've been wanting to ask you for a long time, is how do you ensure that they're safe? Like, you've met this person, you're like, oh yeah, this is a pretty cool dude, like I work with them or her. All right, they've shown interest. How do you ensure that it goes down well and safely, and that they have a good enough time that they want to come back?
Well, it's just, especially when you're seeing someone at work, you're seeing what they're like at work, and if you can see that they're following instructions and doing what they're supposed to do. When you go out, you get out there first, and you're like, look, safety's paramount. I might be a bit of a silly bugger at work, but this is one thing that I take very, very seriously, and start them out from air rifles and work my way up through the different rifles, and get them experience the kick of a 300 Win Mag and a 12 gauge, and then go back to a 22 and just let them plink, and just one round in at a time, and always make sure that they're clearing the chamber, and magazines are empty, and showing the people around them that, look, my gun's empty. This is how I'm dealing with it. And it's like, even when I'm taking them out spotlighting, I'm just like, you shoot an animal, bam, make sure the rifle's empty, magazine out, bolt's empty, closed. And that's just something that, I make sure it's done every time. So.
Yeah, and just like as you get to know them, sort of thing, or if you already know them, just checking their vibes and being like, like, if I go for a drive with them, are they gonna like?
It's not like I'm just
every light and stuff. Like,
it's not like I'm just handing them a gun and going, go nuts. Yeah. It's that I'm explaining to them how it works, and what not to do and what to do. So,
and does the conversation of why you're doing this ever come up? Like, and is that important to you with the people you're taking out? Like, why they're doing this, why you're doing this?
As in why I'm taking them out hunting, or as in why I'm a hunter?
Why doing the activity of hunting, of taking the chosen target's life? Whether it's deer or pigs or rabbits or whatnot. Like, why are we doing this? Like, and because I said with the book, something that's very important to me is to get out people's different stories.
Well, the majority of the people,
you and I have very different reasons why we go hunting.
100%.
We have arguments sometimes that are very fun.
Daily.
And it's like look, it's like, does that, like, there's two people who both want to hunt. Neither of us are good enough to go and actually kill freaking boatloads in one go anyway. So the outcome is going to be the same. You know what I mean? Like, the outcome, no matter what. Sure. The outcome is going to be the same, but is the reason why important to you? And do you have that conversation with people who want to come out? And if they have a different reason than your general reason, how do you deal with that?
Well, normally they know my reasoning before they even want to go out, and that's what causes them to want to go out, because they've heard me talking about the ethics side of stuff, the food side of stuff, the conservation side of stuff, and then that's what sparks their interest, and then they ask to go out. So,
okay, yeah. Well, it's just like like I said, I've talked to different people I mostly want to hunt to, started off getting pigs off the crops, right? And it's every pig, every single one. The few times deer have come onto the property, get rid of them, all of them, no matter what. Get them off the crops. As that's expanded through different areas, it's mostly stayed, either off the crops or keep them away from areas of high conservation value. And that's what I do for work as well. You have different reasonings, and not that either of us own big properties, but if we did, you'd want to keep some. I'd want to get rid of them. I mean, that's a very reductionist way to look at it.
That's 100% true, though.
Yes. Especially because you haven't really done much pig hunting, so you probably want some to finally get it all done. But, so if someone says, like, hey, like, what's more important to me is this, do you have that conversation with them and just, like, sort of, is that a problem with you? Because it's not for me. Like,
I just tell them this is how I go about it. These are the properties I have access to. This is what is expected by the owner on this property, and this is what we're doing. You don't have to do it if you don't like it, but this is just a part of what we have to do.
No, it's really good. It's like I said, I'm just really interested in like just different people's stories, and different people have different reasonings, and I just want people to get along and understand like someone else's is not wrong.
Yeah, I get it. Everyone has their own way of doing it, and everyone has their own different reasons why they do it. So we got to respect those.
Yeah, cool. It's very interesting. And this one last thing, shout out to my mate Jack at Winchester. I told him he wanted a shout out.
Well, now you have to listen 2 hours in just to hear it. So
exactly.
But anyway, Dan, thank you very much for coming on again. It's been long overdue for a catch-up chat on the podcast. You've had lots of exciting stuff happening your way, and hopefully in the next year or two, we'll have another podcast chat. Hopefully we do one in person sometime. That would be...
The next one will be in person. I'll come down.
I doubt it. You won't. You'll get too cold down here. You're like
just because like my last 2 winters have been 30 degrees in far north Queensland.
You're basically a lizard person. You don't function with anything under 20 degrees.
That's true. I'm a Queenslander. It's 20 degrees like for 2 weeks a year.
I think it's less than 20 degrees now, and I'm still in shorts and singlets. So you've been snow gear. But yes, anyway, Dan, thank you very much. I hope people have taken a lot by it, and go visit Eureka Outdoors website. What is it?
EurekaOutdoors.com.au.
Beautiful. And they can find you on social media at?
They can find the business at Eureka Outdoors on either Instagram or Facebook. I'm not too personable. I have a business. I have a personal life.
Dan loves a chat. If you message him, say hello.
If you want to have a chat, you can hit up Zach. The fact that you know my first name is a bit far, in my opinion. That's how open I am to meeting new people. But no, look, I'm always happy, like through the business, if you want to just like ask a question about something. I'm happy to have a quick chat. That's how I've been in contact with Alex, our wild food meister, and hopefully we're doing something with him soon. He just like, hey, can I ask you about just invasive species? Just want to know. I was like, yeah, bro, it's no problem. No. Just please respect. Like, this is what I do 24/7. I lived on an invasive plant and animal research center, like at work, for basically 2 years. This is what I do as my job. This is what I do as some of my hobbies is hunting. I kind of sometimes want to just...
It's his passion. It's his work. It's his biggest hate.
My biggest... Sure.
It's all of the above.
But yeah, please check out the website. Check out the work. The work is the most important part. And really most importantly, please just reach out to your local member. reach out to your local member and talk to them about hunting.
100%.
That's more important than anything else.
Write to them. Tell them the issues that you're having in your area with either firearms laws or hunting laws and get on top of it.
Yes.
But thank you, Dan. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and catch you next time.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.